Okay. Whew. Summer has got here fast, y'all. I was going through some of this and noticed we already had a few prayer requests in here, so wanted to go ahead and put those up. Okay. That's the only two I see right now. So if y'all got prayer requests, put them in the comments. Put them in capitals because I probably am going to try not to read the comments for the most part while I'm talking about gardening. I have a little bit of ADHD. Not sure any of you would have ever noticed it, but I cannot stay on topic. So let's see. Say hey to everybody in the chat already because y'all have been talking. We have Gary, Miss Judy. We have Billy Shillings, Jean Hudson. Y'all need to keep Gary on that prayer list too. We have Wendell in here. Miss Debbie is in here. She's one of the ones that needing prayer. Mark Creel, his mom needs some prayer. Let me throw that one back up there again. Let's see who else we got. If I skip over you, I apologize. All right, Bobby Younce, how are you tonight? Patrick Noble, how there? Miss Sharon, Mr. Denduven, Diane Fowler, Mr. Dog, Tammy Johnson, Southern Belle, Miss Celine, how are you? Jesse Underwood, hey. Mr. Robinson, how are you tonight? All right, I think I've made it to the bottom of the list. All right, so tonight, as you can see, my other half is not here. He's at work. He said he would try to slip in chat if he got a chance, if they're not too busy. It's Friday night. Plant's still running. They're probably going to be busy. But if he slips in, y'all tell him, hey. Hey, Phyllis. All right, so let's talk plants and books. So we're going to talk about gardening tonight. So I pulled out a few books, and I don't know, these three cover different types of reading. My favorite book I have loaned out to somebody, and that's Square Foot Gardening Method. Hey, Sergey. And I've loaned it out to somebody, and I don't know where it is, and I can't find the updated version of it either, because I had the new updated one too. I had like two different versions of it, and I've loaned them out to somebody, and I can't find them. So today's book, like I said, we're going to do gardening, and I pulled out three different books. So the first one, I got this off of probably Temu, I think, and it's The Backyard Gardener, A Beginner's Guide to Self-Sufficient Mini Farming. It's more of a gardening book. So, but this, if you like to read, it is mostly reading with a few pictures in there. I have not sat down and read the whole thing yet, but it is a pretty good basic gardening book. Okay. So that again is The Backyard Garden, Beginner's Guide to Self-Sufficient Mini Farming. Now, this one is one that I've had for a long time, and it's the Gardening Primer. Barbara Damrosch is the author. And it's for the scientific person, I guess you could say, because it is a lot of reading. And it has got some basic gardening methods starting out. It's got breakdown of different types of plants even in here. I mean, like right here, this is sweet potatoes. Everything about sweet potatoes on these two pages. Tomatoes, that page, and these two pages. So it gives you a lot. Oh, and this page too. It gives you a lot of information per plant. So that's another good one if you want something that's more in-depth and I guess a more scientific type approach, I guess you could say. A lot of reading in this one. And it is, again, Garden Primer, Barbara Damrosch. Okay. I don't know if y'all can read that or not. I can't get the highlight off. There we go. The glare. Okay. And then I got this one also. Y'all, I just like books, okay? So this one is a more modern book, and it is Organic Gardening for the 21st Century. Now, why do I like this one? What do y'all see? Pictures. So you can tell more if you like to read and have a reference at the same time of images. This is a very good book for that. It gives you information about the different types of things you need to take in consideration. It gives you some sowing of seeds in here. It gives you garden planting tips. It gives you pruning tips. And then it's broke down by types of plants as well. So this one is as good. They're all three, believe it or not. I can't pick one. They're all three different books. So there's you some books to consider on gardening. All right. Now, the plant. One, I know I have some herbalists in here. Somebody tell me there is an herbal use for this mess. How many people know what this mess is? Y'all know our yard. We have like an inch thick layer of this on our driveway at the moment. It's from the oak trees. If anybody can tell me a use for this mess, I would be happy to hear it. It's about to be covering seeds in a planter, because that's about all I can think of. Is it's going to hold moisture at least on the ground. But that's not the plant of the week. That's just my mess of the week. This is the plant for today. Yeah, it's oak tassels. I mean, they're good for mulch. That's what we use them for. We throw them in the gardens, and some will turn in, but a lot of them just sit there and break down. It makes you clean your cars too. But anyway, this plant for the week is actually called fleabane, and it's a pretty neat looking plant. See if I can get those blooms to show up good. No, they're not going to show up real good. They got little daisy-like blooms. And as you can see, they spread like crazy. This is a new plant growing when I pulled that up. And that's actually a violet. I am wrong. They spread like crazy, but that's a violet that was coming up with it, because the violets spread like crazy too. So fleabane is today's plant of the week. Now let me pull out my phone. And we're going to talk about fleabane real quick. If I can unlock my phone. There we go. It's a genus of flowering plants known for their white or pink daisy-like flowers. Some species have medicinal uses, although scientific evidence doesn't support it usually. Isn't that the world of herbalism right there? So fleabane, traditional medicinal uses are astringent to treat bleeding, inflammation, and diarrhea. Diuretic, it's believed to promote urine production, which can help with urinary tract infections and fluid retention. It's an, Lord have mercy, emmenagogue, whatever. emmenagogue, emmenagogic, something like that. Fleabane is thought to stimulate menstruation. We'll move on. Anti-inflammatory. It's been used to treat skin conditions, sore throats, and headaches. It's also said to repel fleas and other insects because of the strong scent. That'd probably be a good thing to do with it. Mix it and mix beautyberry and come up with a pretty cool little thing to get mosquitoes away, because they're out. All right, so specific species do different things. So Philadelphia fleabane is used to treat colds, fevers, and menstrual problems. Canadian fleabane is astringent and diuretic, which is used for urinary tract infections and gastrointestinal issues. Daisy fleabane is edible and used as anti-inflammatory and insect. Now, there are precautions. It can interact with certain medications such as blood thinners. Should not be used by pregnant or breastfeeding women. Some people are allergic to it because probably like that daisy family. There's a lot of people out there that are allergic to daisy. And it's important to note that you need to talk to your healthcare professional before using it because it interacts with different medications. So, just different things. It helps stop bleeding. You can take and make a poultice of it and put it on a wound. Different things like that. All the parts of the plant can be used. You can make teas out of it, poultices out of it. Fleabane, I think, is actually even edible, but it's only the leaves, but they're hairy, so it doesn't make a delicious edible, I guess you could say. So fleabane is our plant for this week. Oh, I thank you. I just got off of work. Paparazzi. This is part of my stint selling paparazzi, the $5 jewelry. I still have a bunch of inventory that I really need to get rid of. So if anybody wants anything, y'all let me know. Hey, everybody that has come into the chat. Hey, Miss Paula. Hey, Mr. Ken. Hey, Deb Byron. I'm sure there's more. I think I saw a few people come in and I missed them. Katie G is in here. Lisa's in here. That may be everybody that I've missed. If I missed you, I'm sorry. But hey, Dee Dee. So, hey, everybody. So tonight, we're going to talk about gardening. Why are we going to talk about gardening? One, it's that season. It is, for our area, the first week of April is usually when our last frost date is. Most people in our area plant around the 1st of April, but we typically go by Easter. Well, Easter is in April this year, so we're all kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. Plus, I know we've mentioned this several times before, thunder in February, frost in April. So here we are. If you have not already started your seeds, you need to be getting them started. If you are in an area that is not ready for that planting yet, you need to know your last frost date. So we're going to start from the beginning tonight. We're not gardening a lot this year ourselves, Mr. Gary, so don't feel too bad. All right. I mean, people are familiar with the back of a seed packet. There is a lot of information on the back of this seed packet. I put on Facebook, I can't remember how long ago it was, the temperatures that seeds like to sprout at. So you've got to be paying attention to that if you're planting in the ground. A lot of things, they don't like to sprout until that soil temp comes up. Where we are, during the day, we're hitting 80s. Like nobody's business. I am dressed too hot for today. But at night, we're still dropping down to 40. They're saying Sunday it's going to drop in low temps for the night too. Mark watches the weather and tells me about it. I don't know exacts about it, but so we're still watching in case we have a frost here. Now, our last frost date, like I said, is around the 1st of April usually. Mark says 15th. I say it's 1st of April because we're zone 7B 8A. So when should you start your seedlings? Well, the back of your seed packet here tells you that information. Y'all, let me find glasses because I am blind now. Or a magnifier works. All right, so this packet says start indoors in a warm, well-lit area about 8 weeks before planting outdoors. 8 weeks before you're going to plant it in the ground. That's when you want to plant this in a seed starting mix in the house or greenhouse to where your plant will be a decent size to transplant outside. Or you can plant it in the ground as a seed after that last frost date. Now, most people want it to be, pretty good size before they're planting it in the ground. I love my greenhouse too, but if you've got the same problem we do, it's already too hot in the afternoon. and you're doing what we used to do. Bring it out, put it back in. Bring it out, put it back in. Seedlings emerge 10 to 21 days at 75 to 80 degrees. Before transplanting, move them outside of your greenhouse or your sheltered area to a shady area outside for a week. What that does is it allows them to have some wind movement to strengthen the stems. You can also have a fan blowing them on them in the greenhouse. And it also keeps them from burning when they go outside into the full sun. So if you put it in the shade, once you move it out of the greenhouse, it gets a chance to acclimate to actually being outside. Okay. Zucchinis, squash, we put them in the ground. Right now is actually a good time because by the time the frost date is here, they'll be just starting. They sprout fast and they start growing good. So already on the vine, very nice. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what you got to do. This is a pack of peppers, banana peppers specifically. And so start these 8 weeks before your last frost date, and then you can transplant them outside. Now, let's talk about that. We're going to plant these. What are we planting them in? What does a seed need to actually sprout? Soil. It needs a structure, which is not necessarily soil because you can do hydroponic gardening. But for today, we're going to use soil. It needs water and it needs light. So you need a medium to grow in, you need water to grow, and you need light and warmth, which light and warmth kind of usually most of the time go together, but not always. So if you look at what you're going to grow stuff in, there is seed starting mixtures out there. My preferred is a product called Pro Mix, and it has a fungicide in it. I know that does not sound at all like an organic gardening thing. However, number one problem of people when they're starting seeds is a thing called damping off, and that is caused by a fungus. So I like to use the Pro Mix with a fungicide in it. It does not have any fertilizer in it because if it's going to fertilize your plants, it's also going to fertilize the fungus. So keep that in mind. Now, me, like I said, I like Pro Mix. And what I do is I buy a big square compressed bale of it. I dump it in this big thing I have and I wet it down and I mix it all up until it's all damp. I don't want it floating. I don't want it soggy. I want it just damp. Okay. That way, when I plop it on top of my seed trays, I can wipe across it and get the excess off. It's not going to clump up. It's not going to form big balls. It's just going to still be kind of loose. Okay. So then I take my seeds and I put them in the little containers. Okay. Now, what I do when I start, I take a pie pan. I know y'all are going, a pie pan? Really? That's so professional. That's what I've always done. I'll take one pie pan. I'll put that Pro Mix in there. I'll sprinkle these seeds all in the top of it. How deep do you want these seeds? Typically, you don't want them any deeper than the size they are. You want the size of the seed above it. So if you've got a bean, that's how deep you want it, a bean's depth below the soil. Okay. Peppers and tomatoes, those are tiny seeds. Lettuce, tiny seeds. What I do, I get my pie pan. I sprinkle these seeds on there. That soil is moist that I've already put in there. And I pat it. That way the seeds are making good contact with that soil. Okay. Now I do something here that a lot of people don't. I use a product called vermiculite. Not perlite, vermiculite. And it's almost like a mica where it's several little layers of stuff and it reflects light and everything. And it's got all the layers that can trap water and hold it in there. So I'll sprinkle a very thin layer and cover the top of that pan. That's how I know how deep I have planted that seed. Okay. But I only do that with the small seeds. So the vermiculite helps, like I said, it helps hold some moisture in, and it helps refract that light to where they get a lot of light in order to grow. But now that's only in the seed starting. Once it's starting to get above that, it's not doing anything more than holding in moisture. So do you need fertilizer when you start? You do not. Do you need the fancy equipment? No, you don't. Do you need seed starting mats to do temperature? You don't need them, but I recommend them, because remember that chart I was talking about that I put to Facebook a while back? Tells you how much the soil temp needs to be to start the seeds. That seed starting mat helps keep that temperature even. Okay. There's lots of ways to make that soil where you want it to be, that you don't have to purchase that. One thing that a lot of people have done when they don't have a greenhouse, they'll start their seeds in the oven. They'll turn the light on and leave the oven off, and they'll have their seeds in there, but you can't put a lot in there and you've got to cook. So another thing people do is they set it on top of the fridge. So there's a lot of ways to get away without having the seed starting heat mat. I do like those though. Another thing to remember when you're starting seeds, you got to water them. Okay. When I put that vermiculite on top of it, I'm watering it too. The seeds will start to sprout and start to germinate. And if they dry out, then they die. So if you're having problems with not being able to germinate your seeds, are you keeping your soil evenly moist? Because if you're letting it dry out and you're letting it get soaked, and then you're letting it dry out, you're letting it get soaked, you're causing problems with your seeds. It's causing them to start and then die. So keep that in mind. Light. When they're first germinating, before they break the soil, light's not that important. It's the temperature. But once they start breaking the soil, then you've got to have the light. If you don't have the natural sunlight coming directly to those plants, then you're going to have, like Miss Phyllis mentioned earlier, grow lights or something like that. So the grow lights have different, I don't even know the terms right now. It's just gone out of my head. It's a different level of light than what our lights in our house are. So if you're using a lamp bulb, a plain regular lamp bulb, you're going to have that light this close to your soil. Whereas if you have a grow light, you can have it further away. You ever noticed your plants just get tall and leggy? That's why they're not, thank you, that's the word, wavelengths. They're not getting enough light. So they're growing and trying to find the light they need. And in the meantime, they're growing faster and not putting out the rest of the plant growth that they need. So grow lights, they're very good things. They have several different types of them. But again, if you can't afford it, your regular light will do it. You just got to get it closer to the plant. Okay. So light, water's a big issue. Water. Once they've started breaking the soil, if you're watering too much, then you're going to grow mold. You're going to grow mildew. You're going to have problems. So there's a good and a bad there. There's a too much and a not enough line. So it just things to think about. I just go out there and I just do it, and I take it for granted that it grows. And I forget that people don't always know how to do this, but I went to school for this. I worked in a greenhouse. That's what we did. We started plants. We took cuttings. We grafted. We did all the things. So I learned so much stuff, guys. It's just not even funny. But a lot of it is not being used that I learned because I'm not doing anything on the commercial level anymore. But once your plants have sprouted and they get those first two leaves, those are cotyledons. They're seed leaves. They are not true leaves yet. Now, you can, and I do, I go ahead and pull them up because my soil, they don't have big roots yet. They're just loose soil still. And I have a pencil, I poke a hole, I drop it in, and I put a little soil at the base. Okay. And I just go to transplanting at this point and I get them out of that pan and I get them 1 to a cup. And you can do small cups or you can do bigger cups. But keep in mind, what do I know about? We're starting new azaleas this year. Depends on your question. Are you starting from cuttings or brand new plants? If you're just putting things in the ground, dig a hole twice as wide, just as deep. Pot depth is plant depth, meaning whatever your soil level is when you buy your plant, don't plant it any deeper. I always give a little bit of fertilizer. You could do an organic fertilizer that's not that strong just to get them started. I think they like acidic soil, but I really can't remember. They like the shade, most of them. Some of them like to poke out into the sun. It depends on the varieties you bought. And some of them have different bloom stages as well. Like we have some blooming now and some that are about to bloom. Antifungals for, I don't know nothing about antifungals for azaleas, but you could get some copper, shoot, I can't think of the name of it. It's got copper in it though, and you could put that down and it'll help keep that away. I think they do make that in a spray also, but usually if you treat the ground, you don't get it on the leaves. So just saying. All right, back to potting up plants. So and y'all, I am that person. I am cheap. Okay. I go to the dollar store and I buy little styrofoam coffee cups. And that's what I transplant my first plants into because I don't want them to be drowning in a big gallon pot of soil when they're just this big. So I buy little coffee cups and they're styrofoam. And I take a piece of wire or like a landscape staple, those are very thin, or a knitting needle. I think I even have a knitting needle that I used. And I just poke 3 holes in the bottom of it with that hot needle. And then I put soil in it. And like I said, I take a pencil and I pull the soil aside. I drop the plant in it and I put it back up against it. And then we water it when we're done. When I'm done with that small of a cup, then I'll progress to a bigger 16-ounce styrofoam cup. Tomatoes, I do like the big 32-ounce cups because those are one of the few plants that plant depth doesn't apply to. In fact, I like to bury my tomato plants as deep as I can get them to where they have that much of a root base at least. They don't grow deep roots, but they put roots out on the stem. So most of my seedlings, though, when I transplant very carefully because I don't want to bury them too deep. That's also why I do it as young as I do, because they can handle it a little better when they're smaller. But the stems of the smaller plants are very tender. So you have to be very careful when you're transplanting them that small. But like I said, I like to do it that small before them roots are very formed and very intertangled with each other, because when you start tearing roots, you start having transplant shock. So transplant them, water them, watch them for a couple of days, let them acclimate to what you've got then, and then you can start, stepping away from them a little more, start acclimating them outside, whatever stage you're at in your planting journey. I've planted tomatoes this big before and been just fine. They do have a slower start at that versus buying the gallon pot that's like this big. But they usually catch up pretty quickly. I don't start squash and zucchini in cups. I put them directly in the ground. I don't start corn in cups. I don't start beans in cups. Any of the big seeds, I don't start them in cups. Okra has a taproot. And if you are transplanting okra, you could damage that taproot. So I plant all that directly in the ground as well. The only things I transplant from seed, start from seed in the greenhouse in little trays and stuff, is little tiny seeds, because I can control their start then. Beans, shoot, we spilled beans in the back of the truck and we had bean plants. Same for watermelon. We let a watermelon bust in the back of the truck one time, and we had watermelons growing. A bag of corn from the deer got busted in the truck. Guess what? We have corn growing in the back of the truck. So it's those bigger seeds, they're not as hard to do as those little seeds. So get those seeds started now, especially if you're more up north. Because y'all still have time for them to grow and get bigger. Here, we're right at almost planting in the ground time. Now, if you're planting in the ground, you need to be ready with a frost cloth. So, all right, let's talk about planting those things in the ground. Am I going to go out there and just dig a hole and put it in the ground? I could. But if I'm doing that, I want that soil to be broke up very, very good. I don't want to put clumps of soil back in the hole for a small little plant. Okay. I want it to be loose. I want it to be powder almost. Okay. I'm going to throw some fertilizer in the bottom. I'm going to cover that with a little bit of dirt, and I'm going to put the plant in. Now, why don't I want to put the plant down on the potting soil? On the fertilizer. Because that fertilizer can burn those brand new tender roots. Okay. That's why you put the little bit of soil on top of the fertilizer before you put the plant in. It gives them something to reach for as it grows too. And as the fertilizer is breaking down, it's reaching and spreading as well. But those roots can go down and reach towards it without getting burnt. So you want loose soil. Okay. And then you're going to plant it, and then you're going to water it. All right. Now, when I plant, even if it's the dig a hole method, I take newspaper and I put around that plant, and I top it with sticks, leaves, hay, straw, anything I have to keep the weeds from competing with my brand new tender plant. There is nothing that kills a gardener faster than the weeds overtaking the plants. So keep that in mind. Cardboard, paper, all these different things can suppress weeds and hold in moisture, so you don't have to water as much. Okay. Now, we bought the fabric, the woven weed block fabric. It allows rain in, but it doesn't allow the weeds up for the most part. We'll put it that way. For the most part, it will still grow through the holes where your plant is. So just things to keep in mind. There are ways to cut down on the weed growth, but you really want that weed growth to be totally wiped out before you plant that plant, and while it's still young. Okay. Keep it watered. Keep it watered. If you take a plant that is not used to being in full sun and you stick it out in full sun, there are ways to give it shade. You can take a branch and kind of plant over it to where it keeps it shaded. There's lots of little tricks. Okay. But the best thing to do is have your plant acclimated before you stick it in the ground. If you've took that plant and you set it out in the sunshine for a few days, and then you plant it by disrupting the root ball when you plant it, it's going to fare better than a plant that has been in the shade and then planted in the direct sun. So things you need when you plant it in the ground: loose soil, water, fertilizer. Okay. That's really, really your three main things. Okay. Sunshine or shade mix, depending on what you're growing. Okay. Morning sun is cooler than afternoon sun. And even tomatoes have a hard time with full sun in the afternoon. Okay. Full sun 24/7. It's tough on a plant. So try to find somewhere they get morning sun and some afternoon shade. There are drip irrigation systems you can use now. that you can, and they're not that expensive. That was the part that surprised me. They're not that expensive if you look for the right ones. Now, there are some that will skyrocket your budget. We found one marketed for a row gardener, though. So it wasn't that expensive. And you could always come back and purchase more hose once you had the system set up. So we did that. We run the hose, the drip irrigation through there. That way it keeps it wet and you can walk away. You can even set it on a timer to where it only waters for so long and there's no chance of you forgetting. It's awesome. I don't have a timer. Yes, I forget. Just saying. Yes, I forget. I almost like a sprinkler that I can see watering so I don't forget. But the drip irrigation ran under that woven weed block. It is so awesome. That woven weed block keeps your soil moist. You don't have to water as often. The black warms your soil without drying it out, and it keeps the weeds suppressed some. It allows moisture through, unlike plastic that is solid. It allows the moisture through, and it allows your soil to breathe some. So I really like the woven weed block. But that first garden I did, shoot, we just put down feed bags, we put down cardboard, you name it. We put it all down around the plants, threw leaves on top of it, pine straw, you name it. I think I even used grass clippings at one point, and I didn't have any problems. Now, all of that stuff, the bags, the cardboard, the newspaper, it all degrades. So it's helping your soil. Cooler soil allows earthworms to come in. Earthworms keep your soil aerated. If you're able to get a garden started and keep it going like that, there is a no-till method that you can actually use and just loosen the soil with like a broad fork or something like that and not totally destroy your substrate there. Now we have creeping grass. So the no-till is good and bad, because what happens to a weed when you till? You chop it up into a million pieces. And if it's creeping grass, every one of them million little pieces becomes a weed. So you just took one plant and made a million plants. It's very hard to get rid of some of those creeping grasses. We try to be more organic, but sometimes with that creeping grass, you got to pull out the weed killer. And I hate to do it, but you have to do it. Especially if you're getting, I hate to say, up in years, hello, because it's very hard to dig it all out. That's the only true way to get rid of it, is to dig it all out. And if it's creeping grass, it's just going to bring itself right on back in there. We've got creeping grass and we can't get rid of it. So that's what we kind of do. All right, keeping animals out. I don't worry about them. We worry about the deer. And there are different things you can use on the market to get rid of deer. Now, one of those is a product called bone sauce. If you've never heard of bone sauce, it's a pretty cool product. They take the bones and they kind of smoke them and ferment them, and there's a whole process that it goes through to create this horrible smelling thing. And it's originally created for this person's orchard. There are videos out there on how to make your own. And we bought it from Permapastures. If you've never heard of Permapastures, we've talked about them in the past, and it's a permaculture based system, and they did it for their orchard basically, and it worked. Now we bought it here, but because we had 5 acres planted of peas and corn and stuff, they found the spots that they could get in away from the scent basically. So we got to find a way to keep the deer out. There's a method that we've heard about where you use varying heights of like fishing wire, and 4 sets of it with white tape and things like that. Mark can explain that one a whole lot better than I can. I don't think it was rabbits. I think it was deer, because you have deer over there, but it could have been rabbits too. The deer kill my okra. The deer ate all of our watermelon last year. The deer came through eating the corn one year. So different things you can do is, like I said, the fence thing, it works, but you got to have it to where it's the right heights and the right spacing to where it trips them up and they don't mess with it. Talk to Mark about that when he can explain it more to you. Rabbits, squirrel, and actually deer also. I took and planted basil all through my garden. It was a lot of basil, but I grew it from a seed pack, so I had a lot of basil. But the deer stopped eating the plants because of the smell. Y'all know when you touch basil, that stuff smells. So anything you can put in there that has a smell, like basil. Marigolds can deter as well. They say human hair. They say have a man go around pee in the garden. Women, you can pee in a bucket and pour it around the garden. Different things like that. I saw rabbit pee used as a pesticide even. So kind of surprising to me. Irish Spring soap, I've heard that. I will say that we've not had much luck with the Irish Spring soap. But if you keep replacing it and move it around, you have better luck with it because they encounter it where they're not used to it. Mark, when I first got married and moved in here, I was getting rid of perfume, and instead of getting rid of it, I gave it to Mark. It's really stinky perfume, basically. The old lady that has doused herself in perfume at church, it's one squirt from it, and that's how she smells, because it smells like she dumped the whole bottle on her. Get that and spray it occasionally through your garden. It's a smell that they're not used to. I think the best tactic is to switch it up. Okay? Use basil, then come behind it in different spots with perfume, in different spots next time with perfume. Put the Irish soap here, come back with the human hair. Just keep it all changed up. Forks upside down for cats and squirrels. Pine cones is another good one. Put pine cones in the top of that, and they won't dig as hard because they don't like the spiky pine cone feel. But I see a lot of people putting spiky forks. Go to the dollar store, get you some forks, put them upside like this, and point them out, point them in, point them up. They won't mess with it. Keeps the cats out of there too. So just things to think about. I like my squirrels. They don't bother my garden. My chickens are my problem. I have to do a fence to keep them out. And guys, I don't know if I've told y'all this. I'm sure I have. We bought ducks to get rid of garden pests one year. Yeah, because ducks don't eat your plants or scratch them down, right? I had no greens left because they ate them all. So, just saying. I don't have luck keeping animals away, but it's also because I'm not consistent with moving things around. Okay. So good luck on the deer. Bone sauce, basil, same thing for rabbits. I don't know if rabbits like basil or not, but I'm just assuming that they're not going to like smells as well. I don't have rabbits around my garden for some reason, which is really, really weird. The fork method, that's what everybody uses to keep cats out, because cats like to go pee and poop in your fresh garden bed. So, all right. I think I've run out of steam, shall we say? Plant depth is pot depth. I'm sorry. Pot depth is plant depth is your number one rule for transplants, though. If you buy transplants, if you have transplants you grew, lavender for rabbits. That's a thought. I need to make some cuttings off of my lavender anyway. That's a thought. But now, see, here's the thing. Lavender is a perennial. And in your area, it's really perennial. Basil is annual. So, I like the annual version because I can move it around where I need it and change up the garden bed and protect what's needed. But I plant marigolds every year. I plant zinnias every year. I plant nasturtiums every year, and I just space it all through the garden. They help with nematodes. They help with the bugs. They help with a little bit of everything. So plant the flowers because they bring in the pollinators too. Just saying. Any of the help we can give the pollinators to notice my crop, I'm all for it. But zinnias, double purpose. They help with the bugs, believe it or not, but they also give you pretty flowers to bring in the house. Marigolds help with the bugs. You can pluck the blooms and make marigold jelly. It smells amazing and tastes like honey. I put just a little bit of cinnamon in mine. Y'all, I have the front door open because it's hot, and I just had to kill a mosquito. A mosquito in my house. It is, it's not funny. It's awful. So, anybody got any questions? Tons of pepper and tomato sprouts and young plants. I need to go buy a few. Trying to decide if we're going to grow a garden or not. It's so hard for me to say I'm not because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to go plant them, and then I'm not going to be able to care for them because traveling. Marigold jelly, not chili, jelly, Jelly. I've never heard of marigold chili either. I just can't even imagine that would be good. We'll see. Because like I said, it's probably gonna be a garden like last year where the deer eat everything down because I ain't got time to do anything to keep it growing like I need to. So, yeah. They do. The mosquitoes are in the house because of the light. Yeah, we cannot plant a lot this year, Mark. We just don't need to. Because I want to travel some too, and I'm still working so much, and you're still working so much. So attached to banana. That's wow. All right, what questions y'all got in there? Because I can keep talking, but it's just gonna bounce all around the place. Y'all got to give me some direction again. Let's talk about where to get seeds from. There you go, seeds. You can go to your local. I've heard 7 foot's not tall enough, Gary. You can go to your local feed stores, like we have Cabanas Feed and Seed, we have Oak Grove Feed and Tack, we have Tractor Supply, we have Pete's Feed and Seed downtown. All of these are different places that you can buy seeds from. Now, am I buying organic seed? I'm not buying organic seed. I'm buying heirloom because once I plant that seed, my gardening method is what's going to make that plant organic or not. I'm not that deep into organic because, frankly, I like to be able to grow a plant. And some of the methods that you use to be a seed grower, you have to be able to get the seed harvest. And like I said, once you plant the seed, everything that's on the seed is gone because the stuff they to put on it to grow the plant isn't what's on. Can I start a vine from a clipping? Yes. Make sure you have several nodes. Stick it down in a pot of dirt. Keep it moist. Set it aside for a few months. That looked like a mosquito eater. And ignore it, but keep it damp. Set it in the shade. When you trim your muscadines, take some of those pieces and put them in a pot, big pot, with wet soil, and put them in the back of the greenhouse and ignore them. Do I like Miracle-Gro? I've used Miracle-Gro. I like Triple 13, honestly. Miracle-Gro is wondrous, but it's getting far too expensive for my taste. Organic fertilizers, you aren't getting a consistent analysis, basically. So fertilizer is NPK, nitrogen, potassium, calcium. I think it's calcium. Shoot, y'all, my brain has turned to mush since we had that virus. Yeah, I like Miracle Grow though, but I like Triple 13 better. Triple 13, you get 13% of nitrogen, 13% of potassium. Is it potassium or phosphorus? Shoot, it's phosphorus. And then calcium, I think. No, potassium is the K. Darn, y'all, I cannot remember what NPK stands for. Anyway, you get 13% of each. It's even amounts of each. They also make 888, which is 8% of each. And they make different, like you can buy just nitrogen. You can buy just phosphorus. You can buy just potassium. You can buy calcium. Organic is usually 222. Can y'all see that difference? 2 versus 13. Organic is a lot more expensive, and organic has to be applied a lot more often, and you're not getting as much fertilization from it at all. So while I love to say I'm organic, I'm using Triple 13. I'm using Miracle Grow occasionally. I try to be organic, but like I said, honestly, it's hard to be organic because, yeah, that's it. Nitrogen, calcium, phosphorus. Yeah. And I went to school for this, guys. I did. And when I went to work for Tractor Supply, I had to tell him all about fertilizers to get the job. And he was like, "Oh, you do know what fertilizer is." Yeah. Because a lot of people say they know, and they really don't. But now my brain is mush. So yeah, I like Triple 13. I like 888. For corn, you can purchase just nitrogen and put that side dressing with it. Onions, you need to side dress them with just nitrogen, things like that. So, oh, okay. Yes, you are smart because you're doing a lot of things that you have to. I've heard Triple 17. It's hard to find down here. Now we're not. We have Triple 10. That's what you can't get Triple 13 at Tractor Supply, surprisingly. You can get Triple 10 though. And did you know that Triple 10 comes in a liquid fertilizer now? Because that's what they put in the booms to fertilize the fields of the big growers. So when somebody come in asking for Triple 10 in liquid, I was like, what? I like Osmocote too, because Osmocote, especially in my flowers, means I can put Osmocote on at the beginning of the season and not have to do it again for the rest of the year. It's a time release type fertilizer, believe it or not, time released. Did anybody answer why we don't like Neptune's Garden? Now, what is the formulation of Neptune's Garden, though? Thank you. It's potassium and phosphorus, because everybody has to get Epsom salt for the calcium. That's right. Nitrogen is the N, phosphorus is the P, K is the potassium. It's organic, which means your formulation is probably 222 or 555 or 253 or something like that. Have you looked at that to see what the formulation percentages are? That's the only reason I use Triple 13. Tractor Supply is a dangerous place for me. It's a good thing I don't work there anymore. I would not have a paycheck 222. Yeah, that's your difference, because Miracle Grow is going to be higher. Miracle Grow is going to be a lot higher percentages. They are usually going to be a 10-10-10 or an 8-8-8, something like that. Most all of your organics are going to be low numbers, and they're going to be more expensive, and you're going to have to apply them much more often. I love them though, but I can't afford them. I buy them when I see them on sale. Like when Tractor Supply put this one brand, they put it on sale for 50% off. And then we had a 50% off of the 50% off one day. Yeah, I went in there and bought it all. I put it on all my blueberries and stuff like that. So, yeah, John worked for a nursery. Yep. That was my plan, was to have a plant nursery and do landscaping from it. That was always my, yes, I recommend everybody get a soil analysis, because you can go throwing willy-nilly out there all you want, and you are never going to know exactly what you really do need. If you are struggling with having plants grow or produce even, get a soil analysis. You can go to your local extension agency or online even. There's places that will do it online, and it gives you the instructions of how to do a soil test. I recommend that for everybody. I will also say, if you're in the South, you need lime. These soil tests will tell you exactly how much fertilizer of the different types of fertilizers that you need to put in your soil. It'll tell you how much nitrogen you need, how much lime you need. It'll tell you if you need sulfur instead of lime, if you need to bring up the pH or lower the pH, or exactly how bad it really is. I recommend a soil test for anybody. If you're building a new garden, hey, Standing Stones, if you're building a new garden, if you've just bought a house, watch it the first year. See where the light is, see where the water pools, see where the water flows. I picked a spot for my garden the first year we moved here. We went ahead and put the cardboard down on top of the spot. We packed it full of limbs and leaves and everything, and then we burned it off the following spring. And the following spring was when the virus hit, and I got to be at home. And because I was working for the extension office then, I got to be at home and I got to plant all my stuff. Unfortunately, I did not pay attention to where the water flows, because that spot has a spot that does like this. So it comes off and it goes down like this, and it goes straight like that. But then it also, across this way, goes up, but it also does like this in one spot. So when I built and I raked up beds that year, oh, my garden was beautiful. I did not pay attention to the water flow though. So when it rained, I had standing water in my gardens with nowhere to go, and I had to create a channel to get it out. So when you're planning, when you first buy a house, watch where the water flows. Big point right there. Watch where the water flows. Okay. When we planted the garden, we said, well, it goes downhill right there. It's going to flow straight into that pond. It did not. It flowed straight into this pond. And I ran my rows this way. So we had to rethink everything after that. And it's been a learning lesson. So pay attention that first year to where your water flows, where your water stands. So keep that in mind. Access to so much manure. Oh boy. How many people have heard about Grazon staying in manure? Yep. Anybody heard of that? Hay growers can treat their fields with Grazon. They'll harvest the hay, they'll feed it to cows, and then sell the cow poop, compost it, whatever. But the Grazon does not compost out. Make sure, if you are purchasing any sort of manures or getting any sort of manures, that you know what they were fed. If they were fed a Grazon treated hay, you will not be able to grow in that soil. Bone meal is good, yes. Lime, all winter long. Lime. Mix it in, let it sit. By the time you're planting, it should be broke down enough to where it's done what it needs to do. Grazon. What it is, it's a herbicide that kills the weeds in the grass that creates hay. And it's named Grazon because it doesn't hurt the livestock eating it. The cows can graze straight on it after they've sprayed it on the fields. Hence, graze on. Yep. And if you had, is it in the manure? If it's in the manure, you're safe, because lettuce is not going to grow in it. Best way to test is put a bean seed in it. That's the fastest sprouting seed out there. If it sprouts and then shrivels up and dies, you've got Grazon. Deep South Homestead did a video on it. That's how we found out about it too. He had planted all this stuff in his greenhouse and could not figure out why the leaves were shriveling, because there was no spray going on. It was inside a greenhouse, so it wasn't, coming from the wind in. And he realized that he had gotten manure from somewhere, or hay from somewhere, that had been treated with Grazon. So his plants had the typical round leaf curling, Roundup curling. So just be aware of Grazon on hay and in manure. Especially if you're getting it from horse. Years ago, we put a horse manure. Yeah. Oh, it did grow a good garden. That's good. Your horse people are the ones that are more than likely to buy the Grazon hay, because they don't want any weeds in there. It's got to be perfect hay. So I love raised beds. I do. I plant most everything in the ground, but I love the idea of a raised bed, especially if you're doing square foot gardening, because you can do so much in there. You can micromanage the nutrients in there, come up with your own soil mix that allows the moisture to be retained in there and the fertilization in there. And then if you add that square foot gardening method onto it as well, and do an intensive gardening where you put, I don't know, so many plants in one block, basically, there's like a whole plan out there of how many plants you can plant per square foot of each type of plant. It is awesome. So redirecting water for 2 hours. I am so sorry. Yeah, mushrooms will grow that. You'll have plenty of mushrooms there now. All right. Anybody got any more questions? Wooden ashes in the garden. Yep. Bless y'all's hearts. We got more rain coming, but we got a break right now. I think the storms are supposed to start again Sunday. Don't quote me. Ask Mark. He knows. I'm going to try and get out and ride the bike tomorrow. Try to. I may chicken out again. Yeah, that's sad. I used to ride, and I'd ride through Atlanta even on my motorcycle, and now I'm chicken to get out of the driveway. I know you love it, and you know I love it too. That's one topic I can talk about forever. Anything to do with homestead, and I can talk about it all day long. But guys, know your last frost date. Know your first frost date too. Let me ride when I come down. Yeah, hop on. Go for a ride. I'm not going to ride you, though. You'll have to. I'll hand you the key, and I'll ride on the back. How's that? I've never had a passenger in all my time of riding. So, have you ever used jugs to plant and hang? Jugs to plant and hang? I'm lost on. I've used the jugs to plant. I've not used jugs to hang. I'm lost on the hanging part. But now I've took and planted in a pot, might as well say a jug, and put like a watermelon plant in it and hung the watermelons with a strip of like pantyhose or something to hold them up. If that's what you're meaning, like trellising, hanging jugs. I've never heard of a hanging jug. Snow? Pyro, keep that 4-letter word your way, please. Stacy, you and I can talk about hanging jugs because I've never seen a hanging jug, I guess. Yeah, I've done that too in the past where you take and cut them and create a cloche basically. Supposed to get back cool here Sunday through next week. Yeah. Most times I use the jugs and the 2-liter bottles as water holders, and it holds warmth through the winter of the greenhouse. That's more what I do with the jugs and everything. Snow. I just don't even think so, Pyro. It's bad enough it's getting cooler here for next week. Snow. I used to love Roots and Refuge until they moved. And then they got so big that it's very hard to follow them anymore. A lot of the channels I used to watch, it's very hard for me to watch them anymore because it's very hard for normal folks to follow. When they got their 4th or 5th high tunnel was about the point where I quit watching, because most of your average gardeners cannot afford an $8,000 to $10,000 minimum kit for a greenhouse high tunnel. And that's the way they started going. Roots and Refuge did that. And then, what was those other ones we used to watch? We loved them too. They were awesome people. But then they got to where they were doing everything high tunnel and everything that the normal person couldn't do. Even Deep South Homestead to a degree got that way, but they still kept it real basically. And, and there was other aspects of Deep South Homestead that we liked, like their porch time and things like that. But I love Jess and Maya at Roots and Refuge. I just don't watch them anymore. They are people I would love to meet. But when I first started watching her, she was in the old location and had just started the growing upright and had all the trellises everywhere and the raised beds, and it was beautiful. And then she started introducing the high tunnels and kind of lost me. Voice text and Southern accents don't get along. I bought mine from Best Choice. It was like $100 the first year I bought it. And then the next year when I had to replace it after it flew across the road in straight sideline winds, I had to buy one for $130. Well, now I got to buy a new one again because the limb dropped right on the center pole, and it's destroyed the plastic and bent the frame even to a point I don't think it's fixable. So, what did I miss about hunting? Oh, no. Not hunting no Easter eggs in the snow. Nope. I'm sure it was fun for the kids, though. All right, guys. Y'all got any more questions? I'm glad it was a pretty wedding, wasn't it, Miss Diane? Glad you're back home. Anybody got any prayer requests? Remember Mark D. Remember Gary. Remember, oh shoot, I can't think of all the people now. Roger with his hip. Greg with his ankle. Robin with some upcoming stuff she's got going on. And y'all, I never did get the lady's name at work today. She has inoperable cancer. It's right there on her heart, basically. And they told her family every day she wakes up is a blessing. So y'all remember that, family. You do have to babysit the greenhouse. You do. In the South, that's why they go with high tunnels, because you can vent that roof. Yes, Kathy with the hip. That's another prayer request. Kathy Morris Acres. She's got a torn hip muscle of some sort. I can't remember the type right now. My brain dies. So, but yes, greenhouses in the South, they're not tall enough to vent all of that heat out. They are great for extending the winter and starting your seeds, but they are not so great once March is over. And it's tough in March. All right. Anybody else got any prayer requests? Got any other questions? Yeah, it's the same thing for gardening that it is with everything else out there. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. The less you stress about having all the right stuff, the less you're going to enjoy it. So keep it simple. It's the same thing with chickens. Keep it simple. Same thing with rabbits or any sort of livestock that you want to consider getting. Keep it simple. And I'll say this too. If you are new to this, pick a couple of crops and grow it. Don't start everything the first year. And as you learn that little bit, expand. Don't be so big the first year that it's overwhelming, because that's what we all do. We get so big, so many dreams, and we try to do it all that we just can't even picture doing it the next year. Just saying. Yeah, greenhouse in the South is not pretty. That's why everybody goes to those high tunnels, because they are like, I can't remember what the height is in a high tunnel, but they have the sides that you can roll up, and there's bug guards on it, like bug cloth. And that's why the high tunnels work so well in the South. It vents out the heat. It's so high, it vents out the heat. You got fans in there if you want. You don't have to have, but you got fans in there if you want. But then it keeps out the bugs, because how many people fight the bugs? It's awful. And that's what a high tunnel helps with. But they are expensive. They are on my wish list so bad. Yeah, if you start with just a few things, you can learn what works, what you need to do and what you don't need to do, and then you can expand from there. Hey, Miss Sharon, how are you tonight? All right, guys, I'm about to hop off of here. Sorry about that. How y'all like my magnifying glass with a light on it? Sometimes it's not about the magnifier. Sometimes you just need a little bit more light to see. But who am I kidding? I do need readers occasionally. And y'all sister's done gone on to bed, I guess, because she ain't even in here. It's awesome. I have said this a few times to Mark, and I don't think he takes it the way I mean it. I regret the day I said I was going to go work part-time at Tractor Supply. Part-time. That was all. Part-time. Part-time at Tractor Supply led to where I am now. And I miss full-time gardening, but I don't miss not having a paycheck. I like the paycheck. But when we get some things paid off, I'm probably going to go back to, oh, you've got strawberries already? Yum. Go sit down and rest, though. There you go, raised garden with the boat. We get some things paid off. I'm going back to full-time on the farm. I am waiting for the first strawberry and the first iris. And y'all, I had an iris bloom today. I don't know that it's true to what it's supposed to be. If it is, I will have my first winner up on Facebook tomorrow. If it is a true iris variety, if it's true to the name, it was one of the cheap ones I bought from like Gurney's or something. And guys, there is something to be said for quality versus price. I paid a lot of money for those that you see through the iris race each year. Those beautiful blooms come from high-priced iris tubers, but they were worth it because the beauty of that bloom is exactly how it was pictured in that catalog. And the tuber I got, y'all have to go back to look at the video of planting of the irises that I did, 2 or 3 years back, probably 3 years back now. The variety of tubers that I got from Shriners was just amazing. And they were good, healthy, not dried out, good color, growth on them, bloomed the next year. I was amazed. And then I got the ones in from Gurney. They were like this big, shriveled up. I was lucky if they grew even. And then the ones that grew did not bloom properly. So yeah, I may be posting one tomorrow, Diane. So be looking. If it's a true to the type it's supposed to be, it'll be posted. It'll be the winner. But there are so many about to bloom. I'm just excited for my iris race this year. Irises and peonies are probably my favorite. And I loved growing African violets. The house didn't like them, though. Oh, are they? Good thing I'm getting off of here then. But if anybody has any gardening questions, y'all can get in touch with Mark or myself. Y'all are welcome to send me a friend request on Facebook. Send me a message if you want. I'll answer anything that I get. Mark's email, y'all can email him. Y'all can send him messages on Facebook. His email is mgreen35151@gmail.com. I would give you mine, but mine is a spam box. It's not worth sending anything to me because I probably won't see it. It's probably got about 5,000 or 6,000 emails in it that's just sitting there. So if you want to talk to me, send me a message on Facebook. That's the best way to talk to me. Mark, new subscribers. That's right, Mark. Tell them to subscribe. Anyway. All right, y'all. Well, since nobody has any real questions, like I said, y'all feel free to message me if you do. Message Mark if you want. I love peonies. Like I said, that's one of my favorites, and irises. And with the way I grew up, it's hard for me to say that iris and peonies and lilies remind me of home because my home was not really a home, but those are the things that remind me of growing up. So, yeah. My grandmother always said she was going to haunt me. I always took that as a bad thing. She haunts me every day, believe it or not, because I'm just like her. Maybe not in temperament, but all the things she did, all the things she loved, I love too. So, all right, everybody, remember each other in prayer, especially those prayer requests that we have said and the ones that we have not mentioned. Y'all know who needs prayer. I can't keep up with it. So be sure and pray for each other. Love everybody. To steal a phrase from everybody else, get outside, folks. Get outside. I'm not going to say get in the woods, but get outside. Enjoy that sunshine. It's going to help you so much. And if you need to, put on a mask to protect from the pollen. It's hard to breathe through pollen soup. All right, guys. Y'all have a good night. See y'all next week. Oh, fire pit. Next week. Don't forget. Bye, guys.